Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. Later this month, people all over the world are going to get a chance to own a piece of Detroit's musical history. The contents from the Motown Mansion will be up for grabs at an estate sale and live global auction. The 10,500 square foot house in the city's Boston Edison district was once owned by Motown Records founder Berry Gordy. He sold it along with a lot of Motown memorabilia in 2002. Now the mansion has been sold again, and many items inside are for sale. Joining me now is the seller, Cynthia Reeves, along with Aaron Sapirski of Aaron's Real Estate Sales. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Cynthia, I'm going to start with you. The idea of selling Berry Gordy stuff, it's really exciting, but there's also something sort of surreal, I guess, about that. If you're a Detroiter and grew up here, the idea that we're going to sort of disperse all of these belongings that he had in that mansion.
Well, it is fun. When I purchased the mansion from Berry Gordy, I had come back from Washington, D.C., having worked in D.C. for a number of years, and I noticed the mansion had been shuttered. And I wrote a letter that ultimately got to Berry Gordy that said, you know, I think that a home like this needs to be part of the community, the fabric of the city. And then I hit a certain, you know, I lived in the house, I renovated it, I won awards for the restoration of the home, and I was able to allow it to be used for many charitable events over the years, for which I'm very happy and very proud. And we were able to raise money for great charities. And over the years, I collected Motown stuff, just like any Detroiter does that loves Motown. And I also purchased a few things from Berry Gordy when I purchased the home. And I reached that certain magical number where I said, it's time to downsize. And so nothing hit me better than to have a people's estate sale. So we have everything that's for any kind of price point. We've got matchbooks, you know, that someone can get just a small matchbook cover that says Motown. And in this way, it's kind of like a people's estate sale because there's something for everyone in the mansion. I'm very proud to be able to do that.
Yeah. Give me an idea of how much demand there is for things like this.
Oh, absolutely. You know, usually a regular estate sale, we see a few hundred people on a weekend, and we've had, since just announcing this estate sale and auction, several thousand people contact us regarding, you know, the contents of the home. A lot of people are looking for Motown-related items. They're looking for records. They're looking for pieces of history, things that were in the home originally when Berry lived there. And so I think it's going to go very well.
Yeah. How do people get to participate in this? Is it just a website and a registration, or is there some sort of vetting process?
So basically, for the estate sale, it'll be first come, first serve, and we'll have a line, we'll have a number system that people can read about on our website to get into the home, and that'll run from October 12th through the 14th, 10 to 4 each day. For the auction, you definitely are going to have to register. You can register during the estate sale as well. We'll have a preview of the auction during the estate sale, and then at the door people can register to get into the auction. And at that point, when the auction goes live, it'll also be live all around the world. And so while the auctioneer is calling bids on the floor, you know, we'll also be receiving phone bids from all over the world and internet bids as well. So that'll be a really fun event.
I'm sure it will. Talk about what it was like to buy Berry Gordy's house and live in it. Again, this is for Detroiters. I think there's a surreal element to that whole idea.
Well, the house is most famously known because of the fact that Berry Gordy purchased it. But it was really built by a guy named Nels Mickelson in 1917, and this is the 100-year anniversary of the home. So the first thing that I tell people about living in the mansion is that it's like living in a piece of art. You have, you know, coiffured ceilings that are hand-painted, things that you may see in some of our finer buildings downtown, the Guardian building. Nels Mickelson, by trade, was a lumberman and a home builder, and he actually built part of the city of Ferndale, Michigan, as well. And so the finishing touches in the mansion are great. And living in the home, it's just like, it's a dream. I remember sitting in the ballroom thinking, you know, I'd love to take these columns and maybe faux paint them to look marble. And I leaned against the column and it was cool. I said, wait a second, this is marble.
It is marble.
I don't have to faux anything. So it is kind of surreal. And then then in owning this mansion, you are part of the Motown family.
Sure.
And so that brings with it people like Martha Reeves and Duke Fakir, who see this as a second home. I remember Martha Reeves came by the first time we did a fundraiser for the United Way, and she was performing, and she says, "Where's my Grammy? I know it's someplace in this house."
Is that
And so
right?
it's that kind of family that you're part of, and so. That has been a pleasure. And then making it available to the community. I remember a young woman who was a postal worker who was delivering mail, and she said, "I've always wanted to have a wedding in a place like this." And it was within my power to make that happen. And so she had a garden wedding of her dreams at the mansion. So I've given to the city as much as I've received in terms of the love. I mean, people drive by all the time. I've had bike clubs, a biker club take photographs in front of it. It's apparently part of some scavenger hunt in the city of Detroit. People run out, there are 4 people in a car, they take a picture in front of the mansion, they run and get in and go away. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Talk about the outdoor space at the mansion and the neighborhood that it's in. I would imagine it's on pretty spectacular ground.
Well, it's a two-acre estate that's fenced in, and it's part of the Boston Edison Historic District. And at the time, this was the outer outskirts of the city.
When those were built.
Exactly. And behind the home, it used to be country and farmland. And I think it's an ideal neighborhood to live in. It's a wonderful community. The people who've lived here have lived here for years. My mother lives across the street, and she's owned that home for 50 years, over 50 years. So it's an established community of people. Plus, we're getting some new residents coming in. That's exciting as well.
Yeah. What motivated you to sell the home?
Well, as I said, I got to a certain age, and I started to think, I've got to start thinking about the next move for myself, and this was a good time for me to do that. And so that allowed me to do it and to downsize. And so I'm looking forward to a new adventure. I restored that mansion. I won awards for it, and now I'm looking for a new project.
You find something else, right?
I will find something else.
You don't have to look far at Boston Edison. There's several other mansions that
Well, I think I'm going to go with a
same
different style. Once you've lived in the Motown Mansion, you're spoiled.
The others
for
are
anything.
just
So I'm going to
not
look for like a
measure
nice
up.
Craftsman or a Frank Lloyd Wright or something that's a unique kind of property.
Yeah. I'm curious how interested people are in Detroit history, sort of memorabilia like this, not just Motown, but other things. I would imagine that we have other stuff that people are after.
Absolutely. There's a huge demand for old Tigers memorabilia. For example, like the old Tigers pennants from the 20s World Series go for several thousands of dollars. For example, there's different, Detroit history is huge worldwide. There's a huge following for Motown in UK, which we're finding a lot of interest from. And you never know what you're going to find, either at an estate sale or, in my job, in attics and basements all over the city. It's a beautiful thing to be able to do every day.
What would you say is probably the most valuable thing in the collection that you guys will be auctioning out of the mansion?
There's 2 things that are probably the highlights and in terms of value, and that would be Berry Gordy's Steinway piano, which he gifted to Cynthia Reeves. And then also there's a piece of art in the mansion that could also be up there with the piano.
Right. Not Martha Reeves' Grammy.
Not yet. And we are still uncovering and finding things every day. And it's been an honor to be able to catalog this history and go through and appreciate it. And so hopefully the neighborhood, the community, worldwide community can enjoy it.
Yeah. Was when you bought the mansion, was it that Berry Gordy had just moved on? I mean, he hadn't lived here in years. Was it that he had just left all of this stuff behind?
Well, what it was is that, although Berry Gordy moved the operations to California in the late 60s, he protected the mansion, and because of his protection, he had a property manager on site for all those years. The mansion is one of the few that remains pristine. It still has the original historic light fixtures, things that other people may have stripped out.
Other houses have lost.
Exactly, fountains, marble fountains, all of that is intact, and it was restored by yours truly over the years. And so we were very fortunate to have that. But it's kind of it's kind of like I'm doing now. It's like I go and I'm ready to pack up. I'm like, oh, forget it. I don't want that. So
I'm not taking that with me, right?
And so we entered into an agreement where I just purchased some things that he no longer was interested in. So those are things that he just didn't want. And so we came to a price on it and agreed to it. And I purchased it. But now it's time for me to downsize. And so I'm kind of doing the same thing. And the kinds of things that he left. I know Aaron bought a few things he can probably share with you, but it's kind of one man's trash is another man's treasure. I thought these are wonderful things to have, and some of them I'm going to keep, but most of them I'm going to allow to be purchased by the public, and they can enjoy. I can spread the love.
Right, right. That's a cool story about the Steinway, that he left that for you. Is that right?
Well, that's part of the nomenclature. The Stein was actually originally from Nels Mickelson, and it's kind of he did it, but. One of the things that we had an issue where we were trying to get some light fixtures, and I was kind of having a hard time finding them for the house. They were somewhere out there, and so I ended up, instead of going between these different appraisal firms that were holding them and storing them, I just called him directly and said, listen, I can't find them. I know that they're out there among the companies that you had, and that's part of what I purchased from him. And so he made a phone call. The light fixtures were there like the next day, and the piano came with it.
Piano came with it. Oh, look at that.
Kind of like for my 2 months of trying to getting run around, kind of on the circuit of who's got the light fixtures, kind of thing. So
that's a cool
that was very kind of him to do that, right?
Yeah.
But I took piano for 8 years at the Music Conservatory downtown.
See, there you go.
Never got a book one. I could do the Volga Boat song, and that's about it.
All right. Well, congratulations on the idea. It's going to be, I would imagine it's going to be a very cool event. So
we're going to have the Motown stars that are going to be there. They're going to be there to autograph things. So I think that's going to be an exciting thing.
Raise that value, right?
Well, for the people, again, every person may not have access to people like Duke Fakir. We're going to have the Funk Brothers there. We're going to have the Contours, the Vandellas, and they'll people be able to take that little matchbook cover that they get it signed, and they've got an instant collectible.
Forever.
Yeah.
All right.